Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you in Gloves Off. I'm Paul Buitrón. I'm here with Maha Guru Stevan Plinck and touching base on everything from Silat Sara to martial arts to the whole span of what we all need to do. How we doing? You doing good?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's been a while, and we need to move forward. We have some training this weekend, which will be fun.
Yeah, look forward to it.
But, here are a couple of questions that always come to base. Is studying a martial art needed in today's world?
It's like asking, is philosophy needed? Yes, hell yes. It's needed because you have to have a dose of reality. The problem is that martial arts in general is not really that valid anymore because there's been too much peacetime. Every society had its own martial art.
Sure.
And they kept their martial art because they wanted to stay alive as a civilization, as a society, as a town, as a city, state, whatever. So, no, martial arts in general is definitely needed. It's needed for everybody. That brings them to a foundation of, yes, I can be hurt and I need to be careful. A lot of people do daredevil stuff and they haven't had that concept of I'm not indestructible.
Absolutely. And that's the truth. You see more and more babysitting services within the martial arts schools. And I'm just talking all martial arts in general. You have your specialties and you have your systems and kind of everything breaks up. But and now it's more, people are more like, can you take care of my son more than can you teach him how to defend himself and be a man when he grows up?
Yeah.
It's changed a little bit since your time frame of when I grew up with it to now. It's kind of hard, when you teach that.
Yeah, I think it boils down to one word: accountability. There's no accountability for the parents to make sure that their children are getting the right tools, the right understanding, the right training. They leave them to these days to a computer screen and they don't care. Or they'll drop them off at local dojo. And then it is accountability because they don't even see what they're learning.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the longer peacetime exists, the less martial art becomes valid. If you're there to learn respect and honor and integrity and fortitude and the ability to work hard, well, that's what sport was. That's what sport was. And there's a difference between sport and martial art. But they're used interchangeably because these days, even in sports, there's no accountability for your actions. It's just sad.
You're correct. We used to get punished. I'm sure kids now, they still do. The parents still do that. I'm not saying that they don't. But we used to get punished a little bit more. We like to go train. Well, guess what went? The martial art training was what went.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get good grades, well, guess what? You were not going to go train.
Yeah.
So you wanted to do stuff for positive, for you get paid in exchange, right? You see that in sports. Before, you used to have no pass, no play. But now it's kind of like the coaches go up there and they go pass them, at least give them a 70 for them to be playing for, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of hinders it, so you start getting people that are babysat.
Yeah, that's funny because if there's no accountability in sports and martial arts, then it becomes politics.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it is. I have seen more coaches just put their sons as pitchers, and the really good kids they put him in second string. You know, it doesn't make sense. And it's the same with martial arts. I mean,
Sure, it is.
no
It
one's
is.
accountable anymore. I mean, yes, I come from this lineage, I come from that lineage. Yeah, that's right.
You know, back then you were tested, you were proven, and something happened. You know, so they got mad at me one time because I told a couple and I said, and they said, "What's a question we should ask the instructor when we go over there?" And I go, "When was the last time he got in a fight? Did he ever use it?" It's in reality.
Yeah.
If the answer is no, and they want you to become spiritually healed, walk out.
Yeah.
And we're not saying that this is for you to go out and beat up people. We're just saying that the person better be doing it. You're not going to go to a surgeon, a heart surgeon, and the guy's never performed a heart surgery in his life. You know what I'm saying? You're going to go with the one that has been doing it the best. Yeah. And that's what happens with the martial arts. Price value, as many parents look at, I'm going to go with either the cheapest or the most expensive. The most expensive means that he's very good thing. Yeah, but also means that he's probably paying a lot higher rent. Understand?
Yeah.
Well, the other guy is a lot better coach person, and he's going to learn more out of at the long term. And he might be paying $100 over here because guess what? He might not be paying that much rent in comparison to this other guy that's right next to a McDonald's that's paying $6,000 for a little bitty space.
To get the guys over here who just have fresh fries.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have this story, okay? In 1985, I was already a guru in Surat, and this one gentleman, I won't mention his name, but he continued on with my teacher, and now he's got his own system. And he goes, "Guru, what do you think? I'm learning Eskrima from blah, blah, blah." I don't remember the guy's name. I said, "Yeah. Why? Because, kind of learning two arts at the same time is not necessarily conducive to really learning. I mean, you got to learn the foundation of one." I said, "Everything's in Sila, just give it time. He's only been with us for like a couple years." He goes, "Yeah, but Guru, he's got some really nice moves and everything." And I go, "Come here. And I went close to him, I go, "Can you kick his ass?" He goes, "What?" Like he was shocked. I go, "Can you kick his ass?" He said, "Yes." I go, "No, why the fuck are you taking it from him for?" There's accountability again. There's no understanding. What people who understand the number one rule in martial art, the vertical cancels the horizontal.
Yes.
And shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Everybody misses that because they're into politics and non-accountability. And so everything looks really nice and sweet, and people think that the more you pay, the better it's got to be. That's our consumer society.
Absolutely. And that is right. That means that if I'm paying higher rent, that means I have to offset that towards my students. Okay?
Yeah.
But the average martial art in Texas, the average martial art class in Texas is $250 a month. I don't know what it is in California, but here in Texas it's $250, between $200 and $250.
I don't know. I still getting harassed by my wife. She says, "You haven't changed your prices in 20 years."
But you know what I'm saying?
But I don't like the idea of a school anyway, unless it's incognito. I like your place, Paul, because it's very low key, and you've had it for a long time. And obviously, it's not for you to make tons and tons of money, but it's for you to make good product, good people who understand. But the majority of schools, they're just trying to make ends meet, the lights stay on and everything, so they're going to compromise. So where's the accountability if you compromise? I don't get it.
You're right, and I tell people this. In the world, and I'm going to go Renaissance to now. I don't know, before Renaissance, before the Middle Ages. I'm talking about Renaissance to now. What was the country that had the most martial arts schools for fighting, for reality, the whole thing? People say, well, China, Peking. The city that had the most fighting schools
It's got to be Europe somewhere.
was New Orleans.
Oh, really?
They had the most dueling schools, most fighting schools for a stretch of about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody went to New Orleans to learn how to duel, how to fight, and everybody else, So for a while, all the fighters came out of New Orleans.
Yeah, but they were influenced by a lot of different cultures.
Absolutely.
There's the French district, right?
Yeah, so you know what I'm saying? So they had the most schools until 1920, so you know they were still dueling over there. So when you look at that, that was fine.
Right.
You know, there was a lot of great fancy schools from Toledo, probably Peking and Japan and everything else, but
Right.
the one that had the most was there.
I have no idea. That's interesting.
And I'm talking about schools and academies, you know, and known and registered was New Orleans. And people say, no, you know, probably now it'd probably either be New York, Tokyo, or somebody like that, right? Because all the martial arts schools that are running around.
Right.
But in actuality, at one particular time. Pretty interesting.
Oh, yes.
But how do you, here's another one, another question. We know, let's touch base for the viewers out there and explain what CELAT is and the systems that make up the world of CELAT.
As the world turns, that's an old soap opera. As the days go by, things get obfuscated and things get less clear. Okay, so the description I say now will change tomorrow. Okay, look at CELAT was from the culture it came from. Pinchak CELAT was a way of life. So everybody had some influence of that particular martial art of their district or their town or their community or island or state. And but that's changed. I mean, now there's less accountability and it's more about making money. You're seeing a lot of so-called CELAT masters coming here going, hey man, I can make a big buck. Whoopie's not good enough. I want the dollar, you know. And so there's this saying that in the land of the blind, one eye is king, and that's big time happening here. Big time, big time. I mean, the one with the best looking skirt wins, right? Oh, he must know. You know, that doesn't make sense. But people, I think there is no accountability as to what a person really needs or wants. These people that are going to them, what are the reasons for going to them? Do they really want to learn how to fight? If their intent is good, but do they know what a fight is? Just like the question you asked, has teacher ever been into a fight? Well, I think that's kind of a prerequisite. It's kind of important enough. I've had my nose broken at least 5 times that I know of. You know, so I know what it's like to get hit in the nose and you can't see and start swelling up, you know? That, I don't know. CELAT in general, to me still, is a way of life. I've been doing it since I was 9. I'm 66 now, so I've been doing it a long, long time. And my grandmother, who was born and raised in Indonesia, was the first one to show me CELAT. You know, then I went on to my uncles and my formal teachers. But yeah, CELAT to me is still a way of life for me because that's what I do. I do that all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Is there just like karate, there's different strains and different styles, in CELAT there has to be as well.
Yeah, there's lots. It all boils down to only a few systems, but there's so many eclectic systems. Just like now, I mean, I think there was probably only 1 or 2 karates that came over during World War II, right? But now, how many different types of karate are there? You know, so it just gets more obscure with people stylizing a system and making it their own. You know, and to me, what CELAT is not somebody who has talent and that person teaching something called CELAT. Because CELAT is something that you gain skill in, not talent. Talent you lose with age. Okay, skill you keep gaining until you're old. You know, so yeah. To me, it's a way of life. And as far as the types of CELATs, you have the type that really concentrate on low stances and groundwork, and you have the type that are medium in level of play, and then you have the stand-up ones and the combination of all of them. And, you know, everything you see in typical, what Americans think of typical Chinese martial art, you'll see that variance in CELAT also. You know, for instance, the Tai Chi and the Wing Chun, and the differences there will be the same in Indonesia. You know.
So it's, so there's a huge spectrum of different ways.
Oh, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that there's some arts are more kicking and some are more punching and some are more this, more. Just depends on the region and who it was, right, that came of age.
Right, but they all were based on weapons. That's the big thing about it. They're all based on weapons. Here in the States, Kali, Eskrima, Arnis is a big thing from the Philippines. But to me, the Philippine islands and the Indonesian islands were the same. And they were like that for millennium. Indonesia has 14,000 plus islands. The Philippines have 3,000 plus islands, and they're all in the same area. And they're all doing the same thing. It's just a matter of how they name them. A lot of southern Filipino systems have Silat in it, or the name anyway. So yeah.
So and how the next question? How is it that the American mindset has taken to Silat? What is their mentality or their idea of what Silat is?
Well,
because you're a pioneer. If you want to look at it that way, you're a first generation that's continued to push it forward. And
yeah.
you know what I'm saying. And so you've seen it from the last 4 decades, easy. What the changes in the mentality of Silat and the players that have come in and those that are looking for it. What would you say has changed, or has it?
I think it hasn't gotten better. I don't think it has, because there's been less accountability. More people look prettier. They've got a lot of intricate moves, and they teach other people how to dance the same way and say that's Silat, but it's not. You have to have you really have to have a large aspect of it is attitude. And I don't think you can teach that. I don't think that a non-fighter can teach a fighter. I don't think that's possible, because what gets imparted is that ability to connect. Okay? Just simple fact, most people don't understand that in order to be able to check, parry, and block an attack, you have to be able to attack so that you know what you're doing. They don't ever get to that part, the majority of them. They just think that they can depend on their proper eye-hand coordination to move out of their way with a fancy move. So I think it's gone down. I do. I hate to say it, but I do. I mean, if I'm labeled a pioneer, then I'd probably get an F on my report card. But I do have a few students that I know will pass it on. It only takes one. It doesn't take many, So, but the mentality of who wants to take it these days, I wonder myself. The majority of people who have been in martial arts or looking for martial arts already have been in some type of martial art, and people don't understand that garbage in, garbage out. I mean, even if someone has taken no martial art at all, he's taken martial art. Why? Because he's introduced to mass media. He's seen Mutant Ninja Turtles, he's seen Chuck Norris, he's seen Bruce Lee, he's seen the Hulk, he's seen the X-Men, he's seen all this stuff, and their interpretation of martial violence. And so this is what gets ingrained into a person, and now this person has some facsimile or some idea, probably wrong, of what martial art is, and now he's looking for something like that. And so non-accountability produces non-accountability.
You're absolutely correct. And I think what you've said about the accountability, I think it goes throughout the whole spectrum of all martial arts, really. Because at one part, they were created for one reason, for protection of somebody, and they were created for the sport, but then they were created, if they were a sport or a combative sport, they were still come from that ideology that I'm doing this because to protect somebody,
right.
I love one, but I love it so much that we're going to compete against the other guy, so it became either a sport like point karate and so on and so forth, or a combative sport like boxing, MMA, Sabat, and so on.
Yeah.
So when it goes into those realms, then you have to kind of specialize it. But nowadays you don't have the testing. You have people that want to be, the American microwavable mentality. And I'm going to pay $499 and get my 5 DVDs, and I got my certificate in the mail. And you have people teaching that, and there's people like you said. The concept of martial arts, which is true, comes from the movies and media and TV and so on and so forth. So they have that ingrained. So when they go to a school, they're going to try to look for their idea of what that martial art should look like.
It's called bias.
Right. So they're already going in there with a bias idea, and all of a sudden they see something that the instructor might be one of the best in the world, and they might frown upon it because it doesn't look like the Ninja Turtle or whatever that came in there.
Well, we started talking about philosophy, right? There's one philosophy which has done more harm than good because it's being promoted by uneducated people. And that's absorb what is useful and disregard the rest. Well, if you really do not know, you are not knowledgeable, you don't understand what's useful and what's not, you're gonna throw away something that could be useful, and you're just gonna accept something that is very shallow.
No, yeah, you are correct. You are correct. And I tell folks is how I look at like Silat and some of the other arts, higher sciences in per se. Okay? Even though they have their basics, and a man that's good in his basics is a hard man to beat. But you got guys that cannot add math. They cannot do simple math, or cannot even pass intro to algebra. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to do calculus, which Silat is, or geometry. And they're trying to figure it out and say, how come I'm flunking at this? How come I'm any good? Well, you didn't learn the beginning to move on up. You did not know those sciences to go up there. And I think that's what happens. And you see that with individuals, not only in Silat, you see it in Savat too. And you got guys that cannot take a punch, but they're teaching people how to punch and kick, and they can't throw a kick or right. And you kind of look at them like, and if you correct them, you're the one that's insulting, and you're like, okay, whatever. So just keep on going doing what you want, Yeah. I think that's what it boils down to. What would you, changing it? What do you think needs to happen to change that?
That's the way we look at martial art. I'll give you an example. I always say that martial art is easy to learn. It's accepting it that's hard. Because of our own ego, biases, just thought processes, I'll give you a story, a little story. It's a fictional story, but it seems to make sense. Is you take this person who is nonviolent, okay? He's really, really nonviolent. He's never done anything violent in his life. And I show him Juru 1, which is a foundational movement, and I give him just a couple of applications. He has done nothing. He's been non-physical. And now I take him by helicopter, I drop him off on Coconut Island, and he's solo for 2 years. And his mission in life is just to do Juru. He has no one else to practice with. He just does the Juru, but he visualizes and does the Juru. Now I'll pull him out after 2 years. Now mind you, he has nothing. He's done no sport, nothing. He's got 2 left feet. And now I drop him into some hot and heavy violent area in the middle of the night. What's his body going to do? That. Why? Because that's what his body knows the best. His body accepted what his body knows the best. He will use it. And that's martial art. The problem is, again, we're talking about the person who's already seen martial art without doing it. There's garbage in, garbage out. We're like a computer. We're finite. So you get a computer for Christmas. What do? Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. You're playing on it, right? Everything works really fast. Pentium 4, whatever. Pentium 5. I don't know what they have now. And then all of a sudden, 8 months into it, going through the web, and all of a sudden it slows down and bogs down. What do you have to do? You have to clean it up. You have to actively clean it up, right? In order to learn martial art these days, you have to actively clean out your biases, and most people don't do that.
You're absolutely correct.
skills. Most people do not do that. So all they do is accumulate more stuff on top of the garbage, and it becomes organized despair. Then they think that organization is a way to absorb it. It's not.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct.
Because you're supposed to be comprehensive, not complicated, and people don't understand that. Another example is, okay, you have this Korean master. He comes over with his 5-year-old son, and his 5-year-old son shows his wares, and he's able to do the form that you can't do. And he's only 5 years old, and you go, well, it's got to be genetics, right? That's a typical, oh, it's got to be genetics, it's got to be in the DNA. No, it's not that. It's because that 5-year-old boy had no biases, no preconceived ideas of what martial art is. So his mind was able to accept on a clean slate what his body would absorb. It's that simple.
That is correct. And that's why it's a lot easier to teach somebody that's never done any martial arts that starts a class than to teach somebody that has done martial arts to come in. Because unless that person can let go of everything and start from scratch. And if they can't do that, they'll never learn. They'll learn something, but they're not going to be doing it not even basically correct.
No. And another thing is that we have to be, to me, see art as being concise in what you're doing. Really concise. So we need to know what the definitions are. Martial artists in general use definitions across the board with each other that aren't the same thing. I've asked many knowledgeable martial artists at workshops. I said, okay, give me the description and difference between a parry, a check, and a block. And they all look. And I go, well, what are you doing? Is it a tactic or is it a strategy? And what doctrine are you applying that tactic and strategy in? And they look at you like, these are all warring topics that you need to understand before you endeavor into practicing something which is a martial art. And that's just not, I don't see that being taught anymore. I see people doing tactics that are strategical, and you don't have time to think strategy when you're in the mix.
No, you do not. And in a fight, you have to, the most basic maneuvers have to be in and out. And that's exactly what you have to, and that has to happen. And people do not understand, and the romance behind it leaves. The instant you bust somebody in the face and their jaw breaks, you're going to be faced with something called reality. A lot of people don't understand that in a fight, especially in the street, nowadays you're not going to beat the ride. You're going to end up going to jail.
Yeah.
So regardless whether it's a self-defense situation or not, it's not the movies. You're going to pop some people around, 1, 2 people. In today's society, everybody carries a phone with a camera on it. And guess what? More likely you're going to be in YouTube for the next 15 minutes or on social media, you popping somebody around. And guess what? They're going to see that video. They're not going to see what's transcribed. So when reality hits, it's a total different ball game. But again, these are fighting arts. These are fighting arts. This is what it is. It's fighting art. And there's arts that need to be understood, and parents need to understand that. You're not going to teach a kid, even though Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a fad now, how to choke some other kid out in kindergarten all of a sudden, or in first, second, third grade, all of a sudden that kid's laying on the playground asleep dead.
Yeah, it goes back to accountability.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, now little Billy just choked out that kid for good. Yeah. And what's going to happen now?
Yeah, I had a crazy gentleman tell me once. He goes, Steven, every technique will work once. Okay, and I'll laugh, but there's a lot of truth to that. But everything has to be done in its proper place, its proper time. And everything has to be accountable, because if it's not, there is no rationale behind it. And then it just becomes chaos. And we aren't here to create chaos, we're here to minimize it. And I think that's what martial arts is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a higher ideal, a higher goal. It's not for yourself, it's for the people who can't take care of themselves. At that point in time, I'll give you one story which is really cool. I was in basic training, and we were standing in line and rows and formation for the sergeant major to come. And sergeant major always takes his time, but we have to be ready. And so there's this guy from the East Bronx, a gangbanger, and we all knew it. He had this reputation, and he's going up and down the rows like he's a sergeant major. So I'm kind of laughing, right? Because he's brazen enough to be comic like that. So that was fun. And then he passed me up, and I'm just smiling at him. And then three guys down, there's this little guy. He pushes him out of the way and gets in the spot. Well, that just rubbed me wrong. If it would have happened to me, I would have said, no big deal, because I wanted to go on further. I didn't want to get an Article 15 at the time. I had to get in a fight. So, but this little guy couldn't defend himself. At that point in time, I pushed him to the ground, and he got up, and he came up really close to me with his face. He's breathing hard, and I just had my arms crossed, and I said, "Do it." After the third time saying "do it," he just backed down and walked away. Okay, and I think that's martial art. When it's not for you, but it's for someone who can't defend themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's what it is. That's what it is. Remember, martial skills were passed down for a reason, to protect the weak.
Yes.
Okay.
Your village, your family.
Yeah, that's what it was for, and we still have that now, but it's taken in a different format. You know, you still have those people call them sheepdogs, but you know, those I call them band dogs. You have those band dogs that will stand up and protect the community every so often, and that's basically what it is. And I want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank you for continuing pushing forward. And you know, the guard always changes, and you're now faced with you're the guard now. You know, you are the guard of Silat, and that it happens. It kind of every so often it just turns over. You know, and and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
And folks, we'll leave you with that. We're going to be having a workshop this weekend, so if you guys are here, want to see something new, give us a call. We're in Laredo. Number is 956-401-4868. That's my personal number. You can give me a jingle. But we'll leave you with the following: is you guys stay safe, be careful, and stay in peace. Till next time.
Today, in America, more than 5.5 million men, women, and children train in a martial art regularly. Buitrón Academy has been serving Laredo for over 30 years now. Our adult classes are geared for producing the best in you, teaching you street-ready techniques. With the arts of Savate and Kinpo, you'll learn the traditions of these sciences of combat, as passed down professor to student.
Bonjour, friends of Professor Buitrón. The COVID-19 scare is almost over. Be sure to bring the kids back to the professor's training and help them build their bodies, self-respect, self-confidence, and self-defense. The professor is a very competent and amazing man of several talents, aside from being a lovable teddy bear and a funny man. Get back to the studios. This is Sam Booth calling from Phoenix, Arizona. Have a great training. Bye for now.
Hello, my name is Manuel Lozano. I've been trained in the martial arts for close to 50 years. I trained in many martial arts from different masters and grandmasters throughout the years, from the 70s all the way to now. I've known Professor Buitrón for about 30 years. He has done the same, trained in many different arts with many masters. He's traveled all over France, studying with surviving Savate grandmasters, did his research. This man not just knows the fighting techniques and the art, but the philosophy, the history and the strategy, and applying this arts combined with all the other arts. So this man is a wealth of knowledge for anyone seeking instruction in real martial arts and street martial arts, this is the school to go to in Laredo, Texas. For those of you who are away from Laredo, this is the guy to look for, okay? He's very well versed in all the fighting styles of the different arts he is trained in, and I would highly recommend the school.
Hi, this is Mike Lackery from San Antonio, Texas, home of CMOC and the Wing Chun Boxing Academy. I'm here to tell you about my good friend Paul Buitrón. He is reopening his school in Laredo, Texas. Paul is a wealth of knowledge. I've known him a long time. I highly suggest everybody in that area get with it. Go down there and train. Times are getting tough here. And with this COVID-19, we need to support local business. So I highly suggest go see Paul Buitrón at the Don Zaru Sabat Academy in Laredo, Texas. You will not regret it. Be good.
Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Give us a call for your free evaluation at 956-401-4868 or check out our website at savat.biz. Follow us on YouTube and Facebook.